Welcome to another episode of Just Come Over. I'm your host, Emily, and I am wearing some dope socks that say ringleader of a shit show.
Hello, peeps. I am Mel. I am your co host, and I have watched way too many YouTube videos about Disneyland and Disney World this past week.
Facts.
I mean, I kind of admired that. Hi, I'm 80, and I'm fucking tired.
Yeah, it's your turn now, bitch.
I feel like every time that we do this, like we rotate, like who's gonna say that I'm really fucking tired every single time.
It's a mantle that we
It is.
handle. We hand off to each other.
We carry that mantle so hard.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
It's like 007 or Green Lantern. We pass that shit.
Oh
Yes.
God, the Green Lantern movie.
Oof.
Didn't see it.
Really?
I was a
You didn't
big
miss very
fan
much.
prior.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna be annoying for a moment.
Yes,
Well,
go.
probably more than a moment. It's like a lifelong involvement at this point. But
Do
with
it.
the Green Lantern, I had gone to WonderCon the last year that it was in NorCal, and they had the cast of the Green Lantern movie. So they had Ryan Reynolds
Yeah.
and Blake Lively,
Oh.
and like literally chills during that whole thing. It's like really emotional. Ryan Reynolds led everyone in the Green Lantern Oath, and it was just like so like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then months later, it came out and like giant heaping pile of CGI shit.
So just utter trash.
Was at that time
How utter trash.
was Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively already married?
They weren't married. I don't know if they were like publicly in a relationship,
Hmm.
so I'm not really sure about that status.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That was also like one of my favorite celebrity couples. Like the ones where I'm like, you're a tried and true celebrity couple. Like
I
Blake
really
Lively and-
appreciate that they both troll each other so
Oh.
hard on social media. Like
Yes.
goals. You're just like, man, I want to be that way with my partner, where you're just like, oh, you're going to be an asshole to me today? Bring it.
I think my favorite one is when they say happy birthday to each other on Instagram. It's a picture where Ryan Reynolds crops out like more than Blake Lively's sign. It's just a picture of Ryan Reynolds saying like happy birthday. And then Blake Lively for Ryan Reynolds crops out a picture of Ryan Reynolds and it's just Hugh Jackman saying happy birthday.
Yes.
It's so funny. Go and check out their Instagram.
I mean,
It's
the best participant of Project X, I guess. Is that what
Mhm.
happened?
I love that
Yeah.
so much.
seriously.
I think I admire them, so I'm gonna get a little serious for a moment. So they got married at a plantation in the South, which is not a good look.
what?
Yeah,
Damn.
it's not a great thing to support. They're I don't know if they're both Canadian. We like Ryan Reynolds is famously Canadian. So
Right.
I'm not sure what he knew or what he didn't know. I think like that's not really an excuse though.
Mhm.
But they've recently, like in the wake of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, they came out, they acknowledged that what they did wasn't great, it was misguided, and they gave a lot of money to such charities.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Right? That's where I'm just like, okay, put your money where your mouth is, be a good ally.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
I dig that.
Yeah, that's wild. I kind of like, I don't know where I was going to go with that. But just like traveling and getting like a concept of culture, I think one of like the most eye-opening experiences for me was when I went to New Orleans 3 years ago with a group of friends. And like as we were like we previously mentioned being in a book club and learning about like the slave trade and all that kind of stuff, the mind-blowing kind of thing of like the history of New Orleans and like locations and stuff like that. I think that was really educational as I've like continued to bring up my education.
Nice.
Has there been anywhere in the United States that you guys I know Emily has like lived literally everywhere in the world, but is there like a place that you guys like enjoyed traveling inside the United States?
I think while
Gatorade.
Emily goes through her like catalog,
Let me go through my Rolodex
I
of
know
places.
of like prior addresses.
my lexicon.
Personally, wow, I've been to kind of surprising amount of places recently, which I never thought I would do because I was like, when I travel, I want to like make sure to spend my time
International.
somewhere that is utilizing that time well.
Mhm.
Wait, that sounds shitty. Sometimes I'm shitty. I'm just,
Just say international.
yeah. I mean, that was what was on
Kinda.
my her profile, international travel. But I do like Seattle. I like Washington in general. I think that's been my favorite place. I think I was going to say the last place I went to was Chicago, but it might have been somewhere in Kansas, domestic travel, but definitely Seattle. Love
I have
that
a
place.
story when we're done with this. All right, Emily, you.
Okay, so like, are we speaking about extended?
No longer than 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, my question was going to be: are we talking about things that we've passed through, or places that we've actually?
It could be
stayed?
anywhere. Like if you're like the giant, what was it?
Because the
giant
coolest
bowl?
place I have seen just passing through so far is the Cadillac Graveyard, just past Dallas. It's in the Panhandle of Texas. It's dope. It is a series of Cadillac convertibles that have been buried in the mud, and they're like sticking up at an angle out of the ground. And then there's cans of spray paint, so you can go up there and like spray paint stuff.
Oh.
It's like a really dope place to see. In terms of visiting and staying somewhere, I also love Seattle and Chicago. Yeah,
Nice.
I think those will be my two. Because I love Connecticut, but I've only like passed through places there. But I just like the old school lighthouses and the ocean. There's something whimsically, horrifically romantic because it's like something that you would see in like Haunting of Hill House or some shit, where it's like this
Definitely. I
lone-
mean, like in that same vein, you're talking about finding like romanticizing things that are kind of spooky, and you're desecrating like the, I guess, corpses of the residents of the movie Cars. So
I'm sorry, Steve McQueen. I'm sorry.
Lightning McQueen.
Lightning McQueen, whatever.
I mean, but the original Steve McQueen. So
Right?
I think you definitely have more credibility
yes. It's okay. What was the truck's name? Tater?
there. Mater.
Tater.
Tater.
Oh, it should be.
I'm gonna
Tater.
stop while
I'm
I'm,
gonna
behind.
reference it.
It's fine.
In the porn parody, it's Tater.
Oh God.
The son,
okay.
Tater Tot.
So, did you guys know that I have been in a plane crash before?
Really?
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
Yep.
Yeah, you live to tell about it.
Yeah, so that's what reminds me of Washington. So I was 13 years old and we were traveling back. It was my mother and I, and we were traveling, I think, back from Europe, and we had a layover. And like Washington has always been like the worst
State or DC?
DC
Oh,
has been like the worst experiences. Like
Mhm.
missed our flight, had to
Mhm.
like spend the night. But pretty much what happened was we were in our plane, and it took off, and all of a sudden we hear like a boom, and we have to immediately emergency land and like wobble a little bit, and we're like right over the like left side of the wing. And so all of a sudden, like, they don't say anything for like 30 seconds. And we're like, what just happened? I'm so confused. And they're like, hey, everyone, we're going to need you guys to stay in your seats for just a second and just hold tight. And we're like, oh, okay, that's weird. And all of a sudden we see like, some like flashing lights and stuff like that. And they're like, okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and have everyone evacuate off of the plane.
Oh, God.
Everyone go ahead and you can't take anything with you. And so I like look out, and all I see is like a tiny little ambulance.
Did you get on the slide?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're like, so we just need everyone to evacuate in your local area. So like we get up, can't take anything, like no purses, no like literally whatever's on your body, because whatever could be sharp can pop the thing.
Mhm.
So I slide out through, like we go up to the front and we slide off the right, like little slide thing. And I get onto the air Mac and I turn around and half the fucking plane is on fire.
What the fuck?
And there's like 8 fire trucks on the back end of it. And like half of it's in foam and half of it's on fire. And like 13 little me is like, I don't have a phone to tell anyone about this. Like, that's my first thought is like, holy shit.
That's
I
terrifying.
don't have anyone to tell. Not holy shit. the plane was on fucking fire.
Here's
And
13.
caught fire and had to do an emergency landing.
That's terrifying.
So yeah, it that's my little I don't know why it like just finally popped up. I could have left that as like an intro being like, "Hi, I'm Elle and I've had an emergency landing of a
yeah, but then we would
plane."
have been like, nobody else introduce
Right,
yourselves.
like,
What the fuck happened?
More.
But yeah, that's that was like an experience, and we ended up having to like wait, and like they gave us like the VIP like like the Mile High Club that we would just like hang around.
High
But, like,
Club, eh?
you know what I mean, like the
luxury lounge.
Yeah, luxury lounge. But I remember being there and being like, I can't tell anyone. Mom, can I use your phone? She's like, who the fuck are you gonna call? Like, but yeah, that was
Wow.
that's a little fun fact. I don't know why it finally popped up, but yeah, that's my little
Jiminy Christmas. Wow.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you
Looking back on it
survived.
now. I'm
Well,
like,
yeah.
well, I don't think it'll ever happen to me again.
Knock on all the
Yeah,
things.
let's knock on
Knock
the
on
redwood
everything.
forest,
Yeah.
shall we?
Absolutely.
Seriously.
I do think I appreciate like 13-year-old Mel being basically the person that would today be like live streaming. You'd be on Facebook Live. you'd be-
Guys!
Absolutely. Yeah.
Everybody, look! My
It is on fire.
plane is on
On
fire.
fire.
If you don't hear
Let's
from
make
me
this
again,
viral.
you know why. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
seriously. So pretty much what happened was the engine, like something happened in the engine and it ended up like doing a mini explosion and having to like land it back down. But
Damn.
I guess at least it was localized.
yeah.
Like,
Did you
the
get your
explosion?
luggage?
Yeah, we got it. So we weren't able to get it off the plane until they ended up mailing it to us like a week later because they had to like make sure that everything was like off the plane after they like, but it was mostly like the back end and the top because usually they put like the compartments in like generally like the front end of it.
So how were you able to get home if like your IDs and shit were on the plane?
Well, like we had our obviously our Ds, like we would take our wallets with us, but
oh, so you could take your wallet off the plane, but you couldn't take a purse? That
yeah. Well,
doesn't
I
make
mean,
any
like it was one of
sense.
those things where like you can't take your purse. My mom's like one of those people that's like, "Fuck you guys." Like I'd rather pop the landing
Stick
not-
under your coat.
Yeah, but that's why we were in the lounge for such a long time because so many people left everything that was on the plane. So when they were able to get it onto the plane, then we were able to get another flight back to LAX.
Okay.
But we were there for probably like 8 hours in like the fancy VIP lounge until they got us onto another flight.
I
So-
will say one thing. Dulles has a dope ass VIP lounge. So I have only been in there once because I got randomly upgraded when I was going from Dulles to Stockholm for a friend's wedding. And they bumped me up to it wasn't first class, but I think because it was a transatlantic flight, the business class had those like lay down beds. Oh my God, it was so nice. I don't think I'll ever experience that luxury again, but it was the nicest thing in the world. You get like sandwiches and like drinks and stuff before you get on the plane. And then when you get on the plane, they give you a glass of champagne and then they ask you if you like any snacks and then they bring you dinner. And then in the morning they give you breakfast and you're just like,
That's
I'm gonna get
wild.
used to this.
I mean, you had me at sandwiches.
right? Right? Just
Sandwiches
get-
are I don't know, one of my favorite food.
What? I'm the opposite.
Like,
I don't like
Gi-
sandwiches.
Give me a bag of those pretzels and a gin and tonic, and I'm set.
Bag of
Some of
pretzels
those-
and gin and tonic.
Oh, G&T. Mm.
That was always like my go-to alcohol too.
Yes.
I mean,
Wow,
as
how
of
did
more,
that
like,
start?
more recently. I think it was just like, like you had like the vodka sodas and vodka cranberries and stuff like that. But like gin was always like gave me the least hangover
Oh.
Mhm.
for me.
Same.
Ah.
Because it's like when you go to like one of those like half-assed bars, like your worst gin
It's still better.
Still better than
Dude,
some
real vodka is like acetone. You're just like, woo, this is great.
Like plastic bottle, charcoal filter.
Yeah, I'm like, I
Yes.
can't think of like, shitty vodka, like low tier shitty vodka, low tier shitty rum, low tier shitty like whiskey. I mean, like, out of all of those, I would rather get low tier shitty gin than
Yeah.
anything else.
Hands down.
Yeah.
If we ever go into like a distilling business, we should brand us low tier shitty gin. That should be our name.
Yeah. I mean, that was going to a gin distillery is one of the coolest things. When I traveled to London with Valerie, we went to Beefeaters.
Oh, dope.
And but another tragic event. Do you guys remember when that like London thing where the guy like ran over like people and then tried to get into it's like right where Big Ben is.
Are you talking about
It was
the
like a terrorist.
Parliament?
Yeah, it was like a terrorist attack. And someone like drove through. People were having to dive off the London Bridge and then go in and then tried to get in and shot a guard and killed a guard.
It's Westminster Bridge.
Westminster. Yeah, that was it. We were there 10 minutes before it happened.
Holy fuck.
And was walking down to the distillery because it's like right down the street from the distillery when it happened. And so we were at the distillery while everything was going on. And we were just like, thank God we did this time appointment. Like,
that's terrifying.
You know.
Wow.
But distilleries, gin distilleries are really cool. Learning all about all the like botanical stuff that they put into it.
Yes.
I do want to revisit like Mel, what the fuck is your life?
Right?
What's
What's happening?
just
What's
the
Lenny
iceberg
Spirit now?
Survived a plane crash?
Yeah, I survived a plane crash.
seriously.
We
Evacuated.
just passed
Also,
this.
narrowly escaped a terrorist attack.
That's wild.
You know.
Like you do.
Yeah. I don't know. Something about like the back-to-back traumatic things where I'm like, let's just throw this in too.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't know how I segued that from gin to that's, I mean, it was a distillery.
That's
the
how
only other time that
conversations
I've been
work.
That's fair. Well, when I lived in Scotland, also shout out to my friend
Yes.
Sam, who called me out from episode 1 about how I was talking about where I've moved everywhere. And I almost said Scotland, but I chose to say Europe. I'm sorry, Sam. Here's me talking about our lovely city, Glasgow.
Also, our first episode launched.
What?
Yes.
Right now we're recording, but our first episode just launched.
Oh, yeah. So if you haven't, well, I feel like you'd already know about it if you're listening to this one by now. But yeah, our first one just launched yesterday. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, here in time. So we have like 5 more weeks. That's like a month. They'll hear this in a month.
Yes.
Hello from the future.
Yeah.
But I just, I wanted
Still
to.
sucks here.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to say I'm so sorry, Sam.
Our first official podcast apology.
I know. Let me just talk about.
Oh, there will be many.
There will be many.
Let me talk about Glasgow. So this was after Sam and I worked together. Sam and I both worked for the Commonwealth Games, the 2014 Glasgow Commonwealth Games. And my contract ended, but I still had almost a year left on my visa. So I ended up being a bartender at this really cool bar called Citation. It was in city center. It used to be the old courthouse and jail. And they renovated it into this like really high class like restaurant bar.
So what you're saying is that show was haunted.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Glasgow is so hot. There's a big hill called the Necropolis. It's dead people. It's a really cute. It's a very nice cemetery, but it's called the Necropolis. The guy who wrote Wee Willie Winkie is buried there.
Never heard of that.
But Wee Willie Winkie runs through town upstairs and downstairs in a nightgown. No? Okay. Well,
you think stating that would...
it's a nursery rhyme.
Oh.
Is that? It's just like Ring Around the Rosies about the Black Plague.
The plague, yeah. But I was
yeah.
working at Citation, and this was maybe a couple months afterwards, but there was this horrific, very sad helicopter crash.
Oh.
That it was maybe a block or two away from my location. It was on the banks of the Clyde, which is the river that runs through Glasgow. And it was so incredibly sad because everybody on the helicopter died. Anybody who was inside the business that it happened at died. And like, I immediately had this like outpouring of people back home because it was a pretty big event that people back home heard about it. And they're like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm fine." It like happened down the street. It's just so incredibly sad. I don't know where I was going with this. Oh, we're talking about terrifying events. And also saying I'm sorry for Sam. maybe hopefully one day we can reunite, like at least once a year. She comes over and does some crazy American adventure, and we always end up meeting up, but that didn't happen this year because of COVID.
Naturally.
So
Wow. Well, I'm glad you have a friend that'll call you out on stuff like that. Keep you humble.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not going to share any like, I guess, jarring, terrifying life experiences because it's basically just my childhood, and that's what I go to therapy for. I mean, y'all have heard that shit. Whatever. I don't pay you by the hour to listen.
That's true.
You could pay us
But
by
if
the
you
hour to
want
listen to us.
I mean, future goals.
Listeners, yeah.
Right?
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, but you do, yeah. Okay, so again, I love anybody who wants to call us out for anything. I mean, it's gonna happen. Keep us real. That's cool. Our first episode has launched. We've got some great feedback. We're just loving that people are interested and enjoying it the same way that we are.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, editing it through it. I was live streaming earlier today, and both of you lovely ladies ended up joining and watching, and it was pretty funny for me to just be like, what I would do is I would like pause and be like, oh yeah, like, you know, we had another conversation about Candyland, and then I would like start to continue to edit, and then I would immediately say what I just said about
Yes.
Candyland, and like I did that like 2 or 3 times
Like,
throughout the live.
And there it is.
Yeah, I was like, should have just kept playing, doing play. Yeah.
Well, it's like live commentary on our commentary.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was really hard
It's
to
bound to
edit,
have
but it
some
was still a lot
repetition.
of fun.
Oh yeah, it was really also engaging to okay, so I feel like we're sort of like living, breathing, eating the podcast right now
Mhm.
in a lot of ways because we're just starting and we want folks to get engaged and like us. Please like us. But you talking about the things that you were going to keep or just sort of like trying to go through the process of like, this sounds good, or maybe I should speed this up. I was like, oh, this is what happens.
Yeah.
Peek
I
behind
mean,
the
like
veil.
the first I was telling Em about this. I was like, the first episode, I'm like, yeah, you like it. I'm like, the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth are so much better. Like it's,
I know.
you know, like I like the first episode because it's just like so pure of our conversations. And then like you know, I was talking about us having a Patreon and putting like really taking the time to edit like our original second and third episode and putting that on like a Patreon so you can hear like the growth of how you know, like it's still a natural like we're not going into these podcasts with any notes.
No.
We just literally click
Free
play.
balling, letting it hang all down and loose, free nipping, free, you know, whatever.
You're just trying to bring in the word nip
All the
somewhere
sensitive
in this
bits.
episode, weren't you?
But
Em?
there wasn't a shortage this time.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been pretty fun to continue to edit. I mean, like as I keep on editing, I like edit less and less and less just because we're getting the
It's
flow.
like a fine wine. We're getting better with age.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's something we haven't really talked about that yet. We wanted to have a certain amount of episodes recorded before we launched.
Mhm.
And we did have like what is essentially 2 burner episodes. And there are some nuggets of like greatness in there. We had a lot of fun, but also it was like exhausting. We were still figuring out the flow of things, and the format went a little more like interview, which is not natural to the way we talk to each other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It was definitely like interview and then
So
Like,
Mel.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. So like the next question I'm going to ask you,
Yes.
which is kind of like how I kind of introduced. I'm like, I'm your host, and I'm like, well, no, not just me. We're all hosts. But yeah, it's been pretty cool, and it's been nice to be able to see the amount of support and you know the amount of feedback of like what people want to hear or what they really like and they want to keep hearing. And
Top nugget people loved creme de meow meow.
Oh my god.
I had to. I had to. Mel was complaining about it earlier. She's like, if I have to hear creme de meow meow one more time,
You're
I
gonna
need
hear
to
it
hear
live.
it.
And the thing is, it was so funny because as I edited last episode, as you guys probably heard, I literally was like, I have to listen to you saying creme de meow meow so many times. And then I totally forgot about it. So when I was editing it today, I was like,
See, creme de meow doesn't die. She's beautiful and sacred and sometimes swollen.
She's moist.
She
That
is.
moistness keeps her young.
She keeps you hydrated.
Just wait till they get to No Square. By this
Oh,
point, you
yeah.
already know about it.
Just trying to
yeah,
figure
they
out.
do.
All right, 80. What is your version of a no square? Because
Ooh.
I've told mine. I feel like Emily just likes to add in whatever she can. But what does your no square look like?
Oh, it looked like.
Yeah,
That's a very direct question.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I gave
So
my
a no
input.
square. I think so. We were a bit ambiguous about our definition of no square, and it was like sort of. It's a great euphemism or like double entendre, but basically like it came from playing board games online, not
Mhm.
video games, and
Yes.
sort of like where you put your discard, right? It's like discard, don't touch. I think personally,
Yes.
no square would be something like conversations. Well, I don't want to say it's not okay to have with me, but you should know better.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be like, you want to come at me with shit that you should know better before you should talk to me about it, or come up with your ignorance and be proud of your ignorance. Because I'll have a lot of leeway where I want to talk to folks, educate them, or learn together, whatever the case may be, because I don't know fucking everything.
Mhm.
But if you come at me like just all excited about your ignorance and like, I'm going to be a fuckface and just say this, like, especially devil's advocate people, I think that's where my no square is. It's like you're coming to the wrong area. Don't come at me uneducated on purpose.
For some reason, as you were explaining that, I was like, how can I put this in like a visual standard? It's like trying to shove stale
It's gonna
pound
be-
cakes down your throat, knowing that I purposely made them 3.5 weeks ago with your least favorite food into those stale pans.
And I
don't
think the look on the face of this is still good. You're gonna like this,
You're
right?
gonna like this,
like this.
right?
It's just gonna be it's like those stick figure drawings where it's like no square. You don't like it, and then the stick figure just like pushes the person or like punts them. You know.
Yeah. There is a stick figure person swirling a glass of what is clearly alcohol and just looking very unamused. And I'm like, this is me.
Excellent.
I have no features, but this is me.
Love it. So moral of the story is don't fuck with 80.
Oh, I like your summary. Yeah, less words. I'm very
Period.
verbose, so I like how concise it is.
Yeah.
It's a nice toy no square.
Ooh. Ooh.
It's nice toy.
Kegels.
Wait.
No.
It has to be said though. So on
Here we go.
on Tuesdays, our group, I think we've already discussed this. That's where No Square came from. But on Tuesdays, we play Tabletop Simulator with our group, some of our group of friends.
TTS?
And I think it's become a running joke every week now where Metamucil and or Kegels must be mentioned at least once.
Way more. I think Kegels has like collapsed around and just like totally obliterated Metamucil. It's not
Absolutely.
even
They've
a
like
word anymore.
they've gone around the Metamucil jar and just squeezed it with how fervent the exercise is.
It's like that really tight pickle jar. It's hard to open. You Kegel
Oh
it
my
open.
God.
You Kegel it open.
J-
Title of episode: Kegel it
Mel's in
open.
her no square. Mel's in her no square.
Okay, making Mel blush is rare and like a feat. So I'm mildly proud between the two of us. I'm just like high five. COVID high five, far away.
No
on Zoom.
filters. Listen, 2020, all bets are off. Fuck it. Breathe.
The concept of you just trying to kegel open a pickle jar.
Kegel it open.
Can you imagine? First of all,
I mean, she is. She very clearly is.
I don't want to.
okay, fine. I won't
It's
go
getting
down that road.
graphic. I like
I
where
won't go
she
down
can
that
project her
road.
thoughts because it's. It seems intense.
This is the second time that you guys have made me laugh so hard that I've cried on this podcast.
Mission accomplished. We're gonna have 6-packs abs by the summer,
I
ladies,
have
just
to, like,
from
show up to this
laughing.
podcast with like a box of tissues just to like prepare myself from laughing so hard on these.
Oh, I love it.
And to clean up any spills from the creme de meow.
Yes.
I was totally thinking that you're gonna be like the spills from the beer, or and then immediately
no.
creme de
Nope,
meow.
creme de
I'm like,
meow meow. Yep.
Oh, I'm gonna shoehorn it in.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's just my way.
Ooh.
For some reason, I thought of horses when you said shoehorn at him.
Yeah, that's fair. You went very like literal with that.
I mean, we talked about Emily saying anglophile, and I thought she meant someone that's obsessed about the sharp angles
Yes.
of the alphabet of A. I don't know.
Yes.
We're reflecting back on old episode
Specifically. Yeah, we should have like one of those like the flashback
Okay.
episodes. One of those
Yes.
like TV shows. Would be like,
Doodly-doo,
remember that time we?
doodly-doo,
Yeah.
doodly-doo.
That would be so funny because then I mean, I've already saved a lot of episodes to like have bits in that I really like as I forgot to do that
On this
past
day in
Yes.
JCO history.
Do you guys use
I
like oh no, you can go.
I was just gonna say, the Clerks cartoon famously had their clips show as the second episode. And so they had like clips of remember what happened? And it wasn't like anything that had ever been in an episode before.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that cartoon.
I was
No,
just gonna
totally
say,
not.
I was like, did you guys ever use like Apple Watches or like
Nope.
any of those fancy?
Nope.
Oh yeah, you have one. Do you have an Apple Watch, right?
Yeah. I have the 5?
Yeah.
Whatever the new one is.
There's always been something where I would go like a month long with it. Do you ever have something that like you carry with, like as you guys know and our friend group knows, when we're ever leaving, I'm gonna pause because I know those that
yeah.
are listening. I'm going to say it. We're gonna say it together. Wallets,
Wallets, waffles.
and waffles.
Oh,
Wallets,
sorry, what?
I messed it up.
Wallets, watches, and waffles.
What?
You've heard her say
you've
this.
heard
She
me
says
say
it
this.
every time we're leaving.
Does everyone have their wallet, watches, and waffles? I don't know why. It's just always been a thing. But is there always something that you guys have like always had like a pat down when you guys are leaving, or like when you walk out and you're already driving and you're like, "Fuck, I forgot this." And it's not like a necessity, like your keys or something like that. But do you guys have something that you like walk out the door that's like something outside of like your necessity? You know, besides clothes.
Jeopardy music.
I don't think so. I feel like I have some level of undiagnosed OCD only because I always freak out and like quadruple check what's in my hand and or my bag before I leave. So I used to do it a lot when I was younger. So like when I was in middle school and I would walk home from school and I would have inevitably left my keys in the house. So I had to wait for my parents to come home in the backyard. And the poor puppers are like needing to go to the bathroom because everybody's been away from the house all day. And I was like, fuck. But now I'm so worried that I'm going to leave something that I will incessantly check.
That reminds me of that TikTok. Do you remember?
Your
The
birthday?
21st.
And then no, but like, and then it's just a long pause, and it's someone that's walking out, and it's like, "Do you remember?" And then they just kind of like be like, "Oh shit, did I forget?" What about you, AD?
Oh wow. So maybe not so much like repetitively or like a time honored tradition of forgetting stuff, but lately I've been forgetting my phone.
Oh,
I've forgotten it like a few times recently, and luckily I've known where I was going because I have like a terrible sense of direction. So I navigate the crap out of everywhere, even if it's like 3 blocks away.
That's fair.
It's a disgrace. It's fine.
Fine.
But when I'm like, I get in my car, it's usually when I get in my car and I'm like, shit, I don't have my phone. Do I know where I'm going? Whatever. But it does feel, I don't know, there's like a limb missing or something to some degree. And I'm trying not to be all dramatic. So I'm like, it's fine. I can be without it. Be like, but I'll keep reaching for it. It's like phantom limb. Like,
Mhm.
Aw.
I definitely did that. Like when restaurants were open, me and Manny went like on a dinner date, and it was the same night that we had our book club. And I like freaked out because I left my phone. I was like, Manny, can you text 80 and let her know that I might be late. I don't have my phone. I don't know what they're saying. And I'm freaking out right now, but I want to finish dinner. But at the same, that was like the last time that I left my phone. But
Aw.
Aw. But also you have like, I guess, I don't want to say like anxiety necessarily, but you're very conscientious of time.
yes.
Was that like a component? You were just like, I don't want to be late.
Yeah, I think like my OCD with like timing, I think it ties in from a lot of things. Like one, like the company that I work with is like, you better show up on time or you could lose your job. Like their time and attendance is like a very, very strict. So that's kind of always been like, and I've been working since I was 15 and a half. So like, that's always just been like a consistent thing. Also, I've had past partners that have been notoriously late to literally everything. And I just don't like that. Like I'm the kind of person where they're like, oh, we're having a party at 7 and I'm going to show up at 7. Like, and stay for the whole time. I'm not going to like show up at like 9. I don't know. It's just kind of like been always that kind of thing where I'm like very time oriented, even like going to bed. I'm like, it's 9. It's time for bed. But yeah, I think I just it's kind of grown into me mostly because of work. And like just the paranoia of like being late. I like associate it with like such a negative, like heavy thing for me. So
yeah, like repercussion wise.
Yeah.
Also, I don't carry a purse around, so I'm like I'm a pocket person.
Let's talk pockets.
Pockets sold separately.
Hey, remember when we worked together and I
it's still
low-key snuck over
dude.
and P-touched the shit out of your printer?
It's still on there.
For those of you that don't know what a P-touch is, it's a label maker.
Yeah,
And,
there's one time that Emily was over at my location.
I was waiting for more.
Oh, there is more.
Yeah, there's just one time that Emily was over at my location, and like Emily would drop by.
For clarification,
every so often.
our locations were maybe 5-10 miles away from each other. Pretty close.
It's like a 10-minute drive.
Yeah.
But they would come over and I'm busy doing other things and just like, having just kind of like, do Emily things in the background. And so it wasn't until like a week and a half later that I like looked over at my printer and it said pockets sold separately, or like let's talk pockets.
Yes.
And I like took a picture and I'm like, holy fuck, when did you do that? She's like, literally like a week and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, when?
Yes.
So yeah, that's
so then the next time she had to come over to my store, I was in the front and I trust her. She can go on my back of house. I know she's not going to do anything. She came and got product or like needed to use a computer or something like that. So I go back into the back later on that day and there's a Post-it note that says, let's talk pockets or pocket soles, whatever the rest of that phrase was.
Yeah.
Post-it noted to my printer. I was like, yes.
Yeah. That's always been a fun thing. Just like the concept of inside jokes, I always think is like such a unique thing. And it's not even like inside jokes, just like the concept of jokes and having like such a reoccurring thing throughout like the entire time that you like, are around with.
I think, a lot of common references.
Yeah.
Like Emily and Ken incessantly with Anchorman quotes.
Fuck yes.
Like lots of references.
Fuck yes.
Yeah.
I think Scott Pilgrim and Parks and Recreation usually are a Mel thing. Well,
yes. And me. Yeah. Everyone's
particularly when we're having a conversation, it gets kind of interesting, and especially now having the podcast, Mel like save it for the pod,
for the pod. I don't think you understand. I mean, all of the eggs and bacon you have. No, ma'am.
I'm afraid
I don't think you understand.
Whoa, careful. We don't want to have to pay copyright.
That's true. What's in the public domain? We only like things in the public domain.
Well, we do have a friend that works for NBC Universal, so maybe we can be like, can you just tell them to...
Yes. So she's an archivist, and I really love when she reaches out to us about TV shows we watch. Being like, "Do you remember what episode this is from?"
Yes. Yeah, she'll be archiving stuff, and she's like, "I just archived this thing from the Magicians," or "I just archived this thing from whatever," and it's really cool.
It's like being a part of history.
I know.
Well, like preserved history. Right. I do, we've been going on, this has been fun. But going back, like we've had our first episode premiere. We've seen some of the Samans. It's only been a few days, but what has that been like for y'all? I'm really curious because I know on my end, but we haven't really been able to talk about it other than logistics.
I think it just makes me more excited. I think as like I'm doing like the editing and stuff like that, I'm just being able to like rehear like all of these episodes over and over again. I'm like, it just doesn't lose its like the unique thing about our conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like jumping into that podcast, we just went into the room and hit record. And, you know, like there was always that thing in the back of my mind. I'm like, maybe this is like a one-off. But
Mhm.
now that like as I'm going through like even like now our 6th episode, I'm like, this is the thing. Like this is engaging, funny, like kind of conversation that, you know, I've been getting a lot of like really cool feedback from it. So yeah, I think that's I'm still soaking in, you know, like I don't think any of us gave it really high expectations. I think just the hardest thing is trying to get people to understand the importance of downloading it, subscribing to us, commenting onto it, how important that is for us. Like we appreciate the feedback, but we want to grow it so other people can listen. And I think that's the thing that we really need honed in more.
Yeah, totally. These two ladies can attest to it, but whenever we play games where you have to be funny, I just fail spectacularly. But listening back on these things, again, like I'm laughing at myself, and I know the three of us are funny together, but it hasn't lost it. And the feedback that I've gotten is that like we're funny, and I was like, oh, you guys just wait until, or hey, people, like wait until we get to
this episode,
the next episode, you know? Like you're gonna lose your shit. So yeah, I think I agree wholeheartedly with all of what Mel said. You know, the hilarity, the fact that it's not just a fluke or a one-off, and also please do all the things of liking and subscribing and rating and sharing and allowing us to be able to like grow this, because we would like to see this, you know, be more than just a one season thing. Like, I think this is an amazing opportunity and an outlet for us creatively, and a way for us to express ourselves in just another way, whether that's me being an absolute asshat in the background, you know, randomly putting blurbs in, or like if we have, you know, deep and meaningful conversations about any number of topics. I think it's a great way for us to be able to express ourselves and really get it out there that, you know, we're more than just three quirky ladies. We got depth.
Yeah.
I think we really love our friendship and have a lot of fun together. And I think that was primarily the focus that we, I guess, mutually agreed upon, that as long as it's fun, as long as we're letting people have, or like inviting people into that fun. So I'm all for that. And obviously it was just sort of like a hobby and we're just seeing where we're doing, but it does have all of these other aspects of, you know, we were hoping people feel like they're hanging out with us and a little bit less lonely, especially since we can't be with a lot of folks. Something else, the feedback has been like interestingly structural. I appreciate that too. Sort of the hemming and hawing, and whether that is something that works or is like part of your personality or is something that we want to work on. Mm-hmm. Another thing was brought up. So we're an all queer podcast, and being mindful of not using like very gendered greetings. And that's something we're all struggling with. For myself, I've gotten past a couple of them, but being Southern Californian dude is a particular, I guess, trial for me. And I'm being trying to be mindful of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something we've talked about amongst ourselves.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I'm excited about. And, you know, like, I really appreciate the honesty between all of us of like recognizing like, yes, like we're starting to be more aware of, you know, how we're talking and how we're stating things and stuff like that. And I think the important thing is like, we understand like the patience of having to break something that's such a long habit that's like such embedded in you know, our human nature of how we converse with other people. Mm-hmm. And that's the important thing about like this podcast too, is being able to like have you guys experience it with us, you know, like having us be able to take the opportunity of ownership and recognizing, you know, like, oh yes, I messed up. I mean, like at the beginning of this podcast, I I messed up. So I think that's like the important thing that like I really love that we're starting to be more aware of how we're having these conversations. And and I think that the cool thing is that you recognize as like a queer group, kind of like participate and take on those challenges with us. Like it's not going to happen in a week, but why not start today, at least once a day? Replace that word.
Spoilers. We were having a topic off mic. Yes, I said it off mic. And we are gonna later on in some podcasts down the road have game themed things. There's been talk about some drag bingo, perhaps. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Bingo. Yeah.
And like including a lot of things. I think this episode is going to be a little bit longer than some of the other episodes, but I think like as this like first episode where like there's so many opportunities, and like another thing that I want to start doing is like as we continue to grow, like having us bring on not just like all three of us, like we could do like a Patreon where like Adie hosts like a conversation with her friend about like something really specific, or Emily brings a friend over and with something specific, or and like I talk about board games, you know what I mean? Like that's something that like we want to be able to grow where, that's extra conversations that you can have outside of just the three of us, that, you want to be able to listen to something that like Adie's really, really passionate about. Like, let's give a platform for just that specific thing. And I think that's going to be like a really exciting opportunity that like we're going to look forward to in the future as well.
Yes.
Plants.
Yeah. Well, this is it. That's it. Cue the music.
Wait. We have to say our formal goodbyes. Goodbye.
Goodbye.